Hello, I'm with one of my great friends, Rex Gruber, a man that I respect and I've enjoyed getting to know, a good friend. Rex Gruber served in the Marines. So Rex, can you tell us what years were you as part of the Marine Corps?
Well, I signed up in the Marines in 1948, and I was 16 years old, and I turned 17 July 6th, and I signed up July 11th, and my mom had to sign for me, and then I went to, well, I was in Omaha. I had to come to Omaha to sign up because I was living in Union, Nebraska, and then I went from Omaha to San Diego, California.
Yeah.
I was in a boot camp there, 10 weeks in the boot camp.
I heard it was really easy, the boot camp.
Oh, was it easy?
Yeah, I'm just teasing. I know it was not easy. Marine boot camp back then, but even today it's hard.
Boot camp was hard then, I'll tell you. If you did something wrong, you put sand in your big pockets, you know, or you clean the bathroom with a toothbrush.
Yeah, right. So you joined in 1948?
Yeah.
And how many years did you stay in?
Well, I stayed in. I got medical discharge on February the 15th, 1952.
Okay, so you stayed in for about 4 years. And when did you show up to South Korea?
What did I think at South Korea?
Well, when did you show up to Korea? What year, what month did you?
August the 2nd.
So August the 2nd, 1950. So right after the invasion of North Korea invading South Korea, and you were one of the first waves in to defend South Korea.
First Marines in there. And other, like the 25th Division or our cavalry was moving down from South Korea, and they were fighting them down.
Yeah.
We landed August 2nd on USS George Clymer, PH-27 hospital ship, Navy, with 1,500 Marines. As we got off in Busan, the Army's playing the band for us, saying, you know, I see this. Is there a war going on there? But they were just happy to see us.
Yeah, right.
So
well, the Army was pushed almost into the beach, and they had the Busan perimeter, and we held them for a long time in a short perimeter and almost pushed into the sea. But at this point, the Marines are now coming in and helping reinforce the Army, right?
Right.
And then about what time did the Incheon landings occur?
Well, Incheon landing, that was after I was wounded and then back to Japan, the hospital. And then another ship picked me up in Japan.
Right.
And we made that Wonsan landing.
Right. So you were wounded in the Punsan perimeter.
Right, correct.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about that, if you're willing?
Yeah, well, from there we fought our way up through the Daejeon and places like that. And then we got up to the Nakhtong River after fighting our way up there. And then that summertime was, you know, weather was probably over 100 degrees, summertime. And we went through this village. I was after the tank and then the rice paddy, but we got up there and we got pinned down. So when we fought our tank up, got it cleared out, and then we went on forward up to the Nakhtong River. And we went through this little village, and you couldn't tell who the enemy was because they had the women to dress up like a woman, you know, long clothes or whatever, but they'd have a gun under their gown. So we started to go up over this bank in the Nakhtong River, and the North Korea was throwing hand grenades over the top of the hill at us. Yeah. So I'm laying on the side of a hill like this, and the sergeant said, Rex, I had a BAR, brown my rifle. They said, take them guys out because the one was firing us at the village we just went through. I said, okay, so I turned my gun around, and about that time I seen these things coming in the dirt, boop, 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 boop. And I'm laying on the side of a hill.
So like bullets were flying around
bullets. And a bullet went right through my thigh. Here, and it flipped me over, another bullet caught me in the front of the leg.
Wow.
And
so you got shot twice in the leg.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes people don't realize a leg injury can kill you because of the artery.
Yeah.
So you were fortunate. Right? Yeah.
And so then they threw me on the hood of a Jeep. Yeah. And they took me down to a makeshift airfield. Right. And I'm laying on the ground, waiting to load me on an airplane to take me to Japan. Yeah. And I'm bleeding profusely, you know. And so it's kind of a little comic thing. A woman leaned down on me, said, she's a war correspondent. She said, "Are you hurt, soldier?" I said, "No, I'm just resting."
And I'm a Marine.
So
Yeah.
they load us up, and they put us on a British ship, HMS Maine, a British
Yeah.
hospital ship, and then from that hospital ship they went into Tokyo,
Yeah.
and I was in Tokyo General Hospital, Army Hospital for 3 months, and
Yeah.
so then they got it where I could walk better, and so the doctor come through one day, and he said, "How you doing today?" And I said, "I'm getting along pretty good." He said, "Well, you've got to be better than that because we got a ship. You're going back to Korea."
Oh, yeah.
So we got on USS President Jackson, and we went in and landed in Wonsan,
Right.
and made that trip up to North Korea then.
Yeah. So just so our listeners know, you were wounded in the Punsan perimeter, and while you were wounded, the MacArthur did the amphibious landings on the other side of Korea, and the North Koreans went into full retreat back up into North Korea, almost up into the Chinese border area, and we had the Army on the west side of the peninsula going up, and we had the Marines going up on the east side. And so at this point, you're now healthy. They land you up in North Korea in Wonsan, and you join the Marines that are invading up north towards the Chinese border. Is that
Correct.
And so this is in this fall of 1950. And so now you're going up north, and MacArthur and others are saying we may be home by Christmas, right?
Yeah, MacArthur wanted to put that radiation belt across China so they couldn't come across the border.
Right. Yeah.
That's when not Eisenhower, but Truman fired him.
Right.
Yeah. But
So you were up in the invasion going up north. When did you get wounded the second time?
well, November 28th, and
That was right when the Chinese now invaded us or hit us.
correct. We was
Yeah.
at the crossroads there at Chosin Reservoir,
Yeah.
and road coming this way and going that way to the Chinese border, and so we set up a perimeter with 240 guys of us, and so then we probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the guys with the machine guns. But now it was 30 below zero up there
Yeah.
then.
30 below zero. You went from 100 degrees to now 30 below zero.
30 below. And so, but them machine guns, they're cooled, and any ones that didn't have water cooled was Prestone cooled
Mhm.
because it'd freeze up. And then we had a big perimeter around in the Chinese. They attacked early in the morning, and you could tell if you heard a whistle blowing,
Yeah, that's what they did.
you know that there's only maybe a few of them, like
Okay.
a couple hundred.
Mm-hmm.
If you heard a bugle blowing, then you better watch out. Then there's
Yeah.
thousands of them.
Mm-hmm.
So they come in and we had them lined up all around the perimeter, looked like a big rice bowl, because they had attacked all around you,
Yeah.
And it's about so high you couldn't hardly see over the top. Well, in the next morning, after then it started getting daylight more, then they retreat back, the ones that went killed or wounded. So then the sergeant we'd have to go out and we'd pick up their guns, and so bring them back into our camp.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was out there picking these guns up, and then from where we was at, there was another hill to the, I don't remember, northeast, southwest, or whatever.
Yeah.
And yet then I had so many clothes on from freezing,
Mm-hmm.
and then I didn't hear the bullet being fired, but I felt the bullet and I hit my side of my bone, and it went in, sure, shattered my heel bone off.
Oh, so shot your right foot.
Right foot.
Yeah.
And so they didn't want to take that boot off because it was so cold. So I laid in camp while the guy still fought him off for 10 days. And so then they couldn't, the medics, Navy's corpsman is our medics.
Mm-hmm.
And for pain, they give me a little pack of morphine that's a little needle on it, you can take it off, and it's aluminum pack here. And I give myself morphine in my wrist bone. It's the only place I could get it,
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of helped subside the pain.
Right.
So, but when I first got shot down south, I was a dog company, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, 1st Marine Division. So I was up there, I was in Fox Company, 2nd Battalion, and 1st Marine Division.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they said the Marines were retreating.
Yeah.
hell no, we're just fighting in a different
Yeah,
direction.
you got surrounded
Yeah.
by
But
4-1, 5-1 Chinese
Yeah.
forces and had to fight your way backwards, back to Wonsan. So for the time you got shot, how many days did it take to get did you get on a hospital ship or get actual,
The second time.
yes,
Well, the second time, when I got jets here, I had to lay there because I couldn't get out. I
Right.
laid for 10 days wounded.
10 days wounded
That's when I
before
got-
you got the care?
That's when I got my hands and feet frostbitten. You
Yeah,
know.
right,
And then my old company, that they was only wounded or killed, was only 6 left in the dog company, 2nd Battalion,
Wow.
Naxon
Yeah.
River. So they made up a division of reserves,
mm-hmm,
and they fought into us at the Chosin Reservoir.
right,
And then our rock group,
yeah, and then you fought your way backwards,
and then we fought
Yeah.
our way back down the hill.
yeah,
And then they threw me on the dead. We never left our dead. They threw it
Yeah.
on a 6x6.
yeah,
Threw the dead on there, and then they threw us wounded on top of the dead, you know.
mm-hmm,
And so we got down another makeshift airfield, and they threw us in directly to Japan.
yeah,
And then I was in Auburn Hospital there for a couple of days. And then they flew me from Japan to Wake and Honolulu, and I was in Honolulu overnight on a stretcher,
mm-hmm,
and then to Oakville Naval Hospital.
mm-hmm,
And I was at Oakville Naval Hospital for 6 months.
yeah,
And then they said, okay, we're gonna transfer closer to home. So it's okay. So we're California, where the hell's closer to home off it? But
Okay.
they sent me Naval Hospital in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
North Carolina, that's closer to home, yes,
So I was there 6 months,
yeah,
and then they got, what they did, they finally put you in casual company.
Right.
To get you back in shape.
yeah,
And they said, well, we gotta have you do something while you're in casual. I said, okay. They said, we're gonna put you in charge of a liquor warehouse.
well,
They knew, they found out I'd never drank.
well, you can trust you at running the liquor warehouse then.
So then February 15th, 1952, I got a medical discharge.
Yeah.
And they come back, and my folks had moved to Nebraska
Right.
City.
I want our people listening in to know the Chosin Reservoir is one of the most courageous, epical fights in Marine history. Surrounded by forces many times outnumbered by the Chinese. The Chinese thought they could overwhelm and destroy an entire Marine division. But the Marines never surrendered. They got out all their wounded and dead. But they had to fight. It was an offense going the other direction. The way
Yeah.
General Helen Smith said, fight your way all the way back to Wonsan. It's when you read about the cold weather, the overwhelming odds, and the Marines prevailed, and hung together as a military unit. They never gave up.
Yeah.
And to me, it's inspirational, part of our national history, and I think it's one of the best chapters in Marine history, Frank. Well,
Yeah.
Marines have tons of great chapters, but that's one of them. So now, after the Marines, you served in the law enforcement. Where'd you end up serving?
Well, I went, well, first they took me, I took a test for Omaha Police.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went before the personnel board. There was 40 of us, and I was number 4. And so they said, okay, there was a sergeant, but they had no City Hall on Farnham Street 10. And so I went before. There was a personnel woman there, and then there was a Marine sergeant from a police department there, and interviewing me to see about going in and appoint me because I was top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Rex, I want to ask you something. He said, if you was in the wintertime, 12 hours on a intersection directing traffic for 12 hours, he said, do you think you could stand that? I kind of thought about it a little bit. I said, could you stand it?
Yeah.
The sergeant, he didn't answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
So they turned me down
Yeah.
because I had a disability, you know.
Yeah. Right.
And then I went on the sheriff's office then.
So you ended up being a county sheriff or one of the
Yeah.
deputies for the county.
Well, first of all, I was with under Corrigan,
Yeah.
and when they had Cuban crisis,
Mm-hmm.
I was in charge of the security at the basement of the auditorium
Mm-hmm.
for about 3 years. That's when we had all the communication down in the basement because they
Yeah.
didn't know what Russia was going to do at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so then after that, then Ted Janning then ran, and then I helped him, and then
Right.
Corker took my badge away.
Mm-hmm.
But then I helped Ted Janning,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went on to the sheriff's office, and he made me a sergeant, and I worked
Yeah.
the midnight shift.
So how many years did you work for Douglas County?
Well, with Ted, it was 67 to 83, I think
Yeah.
it was.
Okay.
And there was 3 years before that with Corbin, I think.
Right. Well, that's awesome. Well, Rex, I want to thank you for your service in Korea. Veterans Day's coming up. This is about you, and we appreciate it. And I was honor of a lifetime to be able to present to you your second Purple Heart. You know, and you had 2 purple, which is right there. We're putting that Purple Heart on you. You deserved it much earlier. But thank you. Thanks for being a great friend.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.